Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. It happened a few weeks ago. It was Thursday morning, and I was already up trying to get our two kids ready for school when the phone rang. Since it was only 7:30, I was surprised who could be calling. The caller ID showed that it was an out-of-range number, which made me think even more. "Hello," I said into the phone. "John, it's me. It was Claire, my wife. I wonder what she needs," I thought, because we just talked together the night before. My wife works as a representative for a small marketing and printing company in our medium-sized city and travels a lot. I take more or less care of our children as I work from home, only occasionally going out to our office in the city. In any case, it suits us, and the two of us earn good money. We have a nice 4-bedroom house in the suburbs with a swimming pool and a good group of friends. "What's wrong, Claire?" "I have a problem, honey. My wallet was stolen last night when I went down to the hotel lobby to get a newspaper. You need to cancel our credit cards and get them to issue new ones as soon as possible. I have spoken to Joy, my boss, and she will arrange for a new Ameji SAP XS card to be sent to me tonight so that I can receive it tomorrow before I leave. She will also transfer me some cash so that I can hold out. You're usually very careful with your purse. What happened?" "I was a little careless and put it on the cash register counter while I went to get other reading materials, and when I returned, it was gone. The cashier said she was distracted by another customer and she didn't notice anything. My driver's license is missing too, but the hotel is sending someone to check the dumpsters in the area, and I hope they find them. Otherwise, I'll have to take a taxi to the meeting today." "Okay, I'll take care of the credit cards as soon as I can." "I'm sorry for being so careless, honey. Hopefully it won't cost us more than the $200 or so that I had in my wallet. The rest of the cards that I had can be replaced over time. Most of my makeup was in the room, so I'll be ready for the presentation this morning. How are the kids? I miss you guys. That's exactly what happened about 6 weeks ago. I managed to cancel the credit cards before any expenses appeared, and they found her wallet with her driver's license and other non-credit cards, so I just forgot about it. Our life went on. Today I'm looking at my wife's account statement. She keeps a separate investment account because that's where she put her inheritance a few years ago after her parents died in a car accident. I try to respect her privacy regarding this account, but I was looking for our home insurance policy and came across a folder with monthly statements on her account. I knew that after the death of her parents, the inheritance was about $350,000, and I was wondering what the amount of the bill is now. I was glad that it now exceeds $400,000. Looking through the statement, I noticed that about 6 weeks ago, $3,000 was withdrawn from her account, and I wondered what she spent that money on. My curiosity was aroused, and I delved into the details of her bank account and discovered that she had written a check for this amount at a jewelry store in the city where she had lost her purse a couple of days after she visited there. What did she buy at the jewelry store? I asked myself. She hadn't bought anything for herself and hadn't heard her mention buying jewelry for anyone else. She has a brother, but I didn't think he deserved a $3,000 gift. After a few minutes of thought, I went to my computer, found the jewelry store's website, and wrote down the phone number. I picked up the phone and dialed the store's number. A woman answered the phone, named the store, and then asked how she could help me. I identified myself and the deal I was interested in, then explained that we were having problems with the purchase and would like to know if there was a store guarantee for it. She spent a minute searching for information on her computer and asked me, "Do you have a problem with the rings, apparently?" "Rings?" I asked myself. What kind of rings did she buy? I was happy when the girl on the phone suddenly started talking again. "Oh, I remember this purchase. The lady was very upset when she came and told us that her wedding and engagement rings had been stolen and she wanted to replace them. It took us a long time to find 2 rings that would suit her. She used the company's credit card as collateral, and a few days later she sent us a check. Are you saying that there are problems with them? We provide a 90-day warranty on them. Is the diamond in the frame loose? Did she replace her wedding and engagement rings?" I was puzzled. She never talked about losing them, only that her purse had been stolen. I should have thought about it in more detail. "Listen," I said to the girl. "I need to talk to my wife about this and call you back. I'll call you back later." "Okay, goodbye." She looked puzzled, but not as puzzled as I was. Obviously, the rings should have been in her purse when it was stolen. Why would they be in her purse unless she didn't want others to know she was married? There were no marriage restrictions at her job as far as I know. However, if she wanted to appear unmarried in a social situation, I reasoned, it could mean that she wanted to be a gambler when she was away from home. The thought immediately made my stomach ache. We were married for 11 years. We had 2 children, Jeremy, 7, and Melissa, 6, and I thought we had the perfect marriage and family. Our personal life was fine, or so I thought. Why would she seek satisfaction outside of our marriage? She usually traveled once a month and stayed for 2 or 3 nights in some remote city. So if she wanted to play, she would feel safe doing it then. The loss of the rings must have scared her very much, and she decided to replace them with something as similar as possible to the originals. I bought them when I wasn't making much money and they weren't fashionable, so getting a good likeness wouldn't be very expensive. She could have applied to our insurance company, but I would most likely have found out about it. If she really had her purse stolen at the hotel, she should have reported it. I was wondering what she had told them about the disappearance. I found the hotel number and called them. I asked if they had a record of my wife's purse being stolen. When they replied that they had a written report on the incident, I asked if they could fax me a copy. A few minutes later, I had a copy. The statement was written and signed by Claire. In it, she described how her purse was stolen while she was dancing in the hall. She left her purse in the booth where she was sitting, and when she returned to her seat, she was gone. The hotel noted that Claire did not want to involve the police. My thoughts were running away from the consequences of what I had discovered. She lied to me by not telling me about the theft of the rings, and lied by saying they were stolen from a gift shop. Perhaps there was some other explanation for this, but I couldn't imagine any other scenario other than the disgusting thoughts that were spinning in my head. I knew I had to figure out what losing those rings meant, otherwise it would drive me crazy. But it was becoming obvious that the rings were in her purse when she was dancing with some unknown man. After that, she went on a trip a couple of weeks ago and was supposed to go on another trip in a couple of days. And I needed to get a little more information about the route of her next trip. I wanted to find out what she did in the evenings when she was away from home. If she had intimate relationships with other men, then perhaps losing the rings was enough to scare her. I knew that if I found out that she had been unfaithful to me, it would probably be the end of our marriage, although I didn't want to think about the impact on the children. She was a great mother, but I couldn't let her get custody if we split up and she would travel and sleep with others. My mind was racing, trying to figure out how to find other clues about her fidelity. What else can tell me what she did during her trips? Did she make love to them naked, or did she use condoms? I would bet that she used condoms, since she hardly wanted to bring anything home or get pregnant. I had a vasectomy after the birth of our second child, and pregnancy would have been an absolute no-no. She couldn't trust a man to bring condoms, so she had to have her own supply. Where would she keep them? She couldn't keep them at home or in her car, so she would have to keep them in her office at work. Most likely, they would have been with her when she went on a business trip. She always carried her business papers, laptop, and presentation materials in a large briefcase that she kept in her office. However, if she left on an early morning flight, she would bring her briefcase home the night before, and then take it and her suitcase to the airport. That was the key. I had to find a way to search the briefcase before she left. I was hoping that her next trip would involve an early morning flight. I decided that I had to behave calmly so as not to warn her that something was wrong. I shouldn't have worried, because when the kids came home from school, I was too busy to worry, but the possibility that she was cheating on me remained in the back of my mind. When Claire returned from work, I had a minor accident while cooking dinner. A dish of beans slipped out of my hands and fell to the floor. I started cleaning with my usual calmness, and since there were kids running around, I looked a little worried, so I don't think she noticed anything strange about my behavior. When everything calmed down and the mess was cleaned up, I greeted her with a kiss on the cheek, as I usually did, and we sat down to eat. During the meal, we usually chatted about how our day had gone, so I didn't find it unusual to ask about her upcoming trip. "Are you leaving again in a couple of days?" "It's almost the same thing again. I'm not looking forward to it." "If you don't like it, why don't you apply for another position? You've been working for the company long enough and you know enough about it. You can fit in almost anywhere." "I've already thought about it, but I want to work a little more before I sit down at the table." I decided to prick her conscience a little. "My children and I miss you very much when you are not there." "I know, and I regret it. I miss you too." "So, where are you going this time, and are you leaving in the morning so that we can meet before you leave?" I looked at her, remembering that the children were listening. It seemed to me that I was making a good game, pretending that everything was fine, although it was difficult for me to eat since my stomach was in turmoil. She obviously thought that everything was fine, because she responded in kind. I wondered if her stomach was giving her problems, but she seemed to be eating without problems. Maybe I was wrong about her, but if I could check her briefcase, I would have a more accurate opinion of her loyalty. I'm only going to Denton, so I'm leaving in the morning. The flight is at 7:30, and I need something to hold on until I get back on Friday. She winked back at me. That's good. I winked back, trying to act normal, and she blushed. This meant that she would bring her briefcase home the evening before leaving and would not go to work until she left for the airport. Her carefree attitude towards her trip in the presence of our children and me seemed to indicate that she doesn't play when she's away, or she's used to cheating. I was hoping that the briefcase would tell the whole story. The evening before she left, Claire returned home in a good mood and, as usual, parked her car next to mine in the garage. She seemed excited about something, and I wondered if she was looking forward to making love to me or to someone else. She didn't take her briefcase with her, so I assumed it was in her car. I was working on cooking dinner, and when we sat down to eat, she asked me if I would pick up her bag from the garage when we finished eating. Of course, do you have everything you need? Oh, yes, it's a regular trip. I have a briefcase in the car ready for the trip, and I'll just pack my bag with the usual things I need for a couple of nights. Do you have any plans for the time I'm gone? No, the kids and I will just go about our business as usual during the week. Maybe we could do something together as a family over the weekend. That sounds good. I'll be looking forward to it. After dinner, she helped me clear the table and the kitchen, then filled the dishwasher. Turning it on, she went into the bedroom to pack her things, and I went to the garage to get her bag. In the garage, I looked into her car, but I didn't see the briefcase and decided that it was locked in the trunk. I foresaw this and figured out how to get to him in the evening. When I returned to the bedroom with her bag, I asked, "Where are the keys to your car? You have a flat tire and probably have a slow leak. If I bring it to the gas station, I can ask Jerry to fix it right now." She looked confused for a minute and then reached for her purse. Handing me the keys, she asked, "Can't you just put the spare on?" "This is just a last resort. We have time to fix it, so I think that's what we should do," I told her, heading back to the garage before she had a chance to think. I quickly drove her car out of the garage and headed to the corner gas station owned by my school friend Jerry. When I drove up to one of his compartments, I honked. He saw me and opened the door, allowing me to enter and close it behind him. "How are you?" "I was supposed to be here to fix the tire, but I needed time to check something else." "Problems at home, buddy?" "Maybe," I told him, opening the trunk and taking out Claire's briefcase. After putting it on the desktop, I used the key on her ring to open it. "Well, I have a client, so have fun," Jerry told me, heading back to the small store he ran with his station. I began to search the briefcase very carefully, as I did not want to disturb anything unnecessarily. After checking several pockets in the flap, my fingers found a package, which I extracted. My heart sank when I saw the open package of condoms. About 3 were missing. My worst suspicions have been confirmed. I put the package back in its place, closed and locked the briefcase. I put the briefcase back in the trunk, closed it, and turned around when Jerry returned. "Did you find what you were looking for?" "I'm afraid so. Could you let me stay here a little longer? Maybe you can check the air in her tires so I can tell her I fixed the problem." "Okay, I can." He just looked at me cheerfully but didn't say anything. He was a real friend. After checking it, I drove out of the compartment, drove up to the gas stations, and refueled the tank. There's no telling when I'll be able to do it again. I thanked Jerry for his hospitality and went home. My thoughts were very dark, and I was on the verge of hyperventilation when I pulled back into our garage. I felt furious and disappointed that she had done this to me, the children, and our marriage. Then my thoughts began to plan my next move. I needed to get definitive evidence of her adulterous, immoral behavior to make sure that I would get custody of our children. She was a good mother, and children need a mother, and I would have allowed visits, but my goal was full legal custody. She would have to explain to her brother and friends why we got divorced. When I entered the house, I shouted into the bedroom, "Everything is ready. It was just a small nail." "Okay, thanks." I couldn't look her in the eye yet, so I went to the kitchen and got a beer, and then I went to the family room to the children who were watching TV. About half an hour later, Claire came into the room and sat next to me on the couch. By that time, I had managed to cool down, although I was very sad that this once happy family would soon be a thing of the past. Claire moved closer to me and snuggled up to me. "Are you ready for tonight, stud?" she whispered in my ear. I took a sip of beer before answering. "I think so, but my stomach is failing." "Oh, that's too bad, honey," she said to me, snuggling closer. I automatically put my hand on her shoulders, and somehow I felt tender towards her. I was wondering why she did it. Was it for the excitement, or did she just need more of it than I could give her? I may never know. All I knew was that my trust in her had disappeared. We both put the kids to bed, and I watched her as she kissed our two little angels goodnight. When they got up in the morning, she was gone, but they didn't worry because she traveled so much. That night, we made love. It was not a hot, passionate lovemaking, but rather a farewell intimacy. She felt my sadness. "Is your stomach still bothering you, honey?" "Yes, but I'll get over it." "Do you really need to go on this trip?" I asked, hoping that she would put our love and our marriage first. Maybe I was hoping that this was all a nightmare and everything would go away if she stayed at home with us. "I'm sorry, honey. This is a must, and I will try to break out and return home as soon as possible. I'm really looking forward to this weekend with you guys." "Okay, honey," I sighed. "You better get some sleep. You need to get up early to catch a plane." "I'll take a quick shower first, then I won't have to do it in the morning." "Good." While she was in the shower, I went over and looked into her bag to see what she had packed. Most of the clothes on top were businesslike, but underneath I found a hiding place, with the most attractive underwear and a small black cocktail dress, which I found so charming. It looked like she was going to be a busy girl while she was away. Carefully rearranging the bag the way I found it, I zipped up the lid and got into bed. I didn't sleep too well that night, and when I heard that Claire got up around 5 in the morning, I didn't get out of bed to say goodbye as usual. I knew I was feeling tired and sad at the same time, and I knew that the anger would start to build later. "Still not feeling well, honey?" "What is it?" she asked, kissing me goodbye on the cheek while I was lying next to her. After I heard the garage door close and she drove away, I got up and went to the shower. I had a busy day ahead of me. After getting the kids ready for school and having breakfast, I took out the phone book and scanned the yellow pages in search of a private investigator, especially one that had branches all over the country. I called a few of them and found one with a branch in Denton, where Claire was heading, and made an appointment with them that morning. Then I found a divorce lawyer, whose services my friend had used in the past and praised him very much. I called and made an appointment with him in the afternoon. When I went to the private investigator's office, I arranged for Claire to be watched in the evenings when she goes out, and for them to receive photos and a report on her activities after her cases are over for the day. I brought a photo of Claire and her route with me, so that they would have no difficulty finding and identifying her. They said they would email the information to the Denton office and provide me with a report by Monday morning. I told them that everything would be fine and made a large advance payment for their services. They warned me that they most likely would not be able to get photos of their sexual intercourse, but would try to provide as many incriminating photos as possible. I told them it would suit me. The afternoon meeting with the lawyer went as I had hoped. He told me that we are in a no-fault state regarding the divorce, but since I am the primary caregiver of our children, I will most likely be given custody, but I will have to admit that Claire will be given generous visiting time. We would have divided the property 50-50, but no alimony since our incomes were about equal. If I got custody, Claire would have to pay child support. As for the inheritance that Claire received, she would keep it for herself, which didn't bother me. Our children were my main concern. I told him to prepare the documents and hand them over after Monday on the basis of irreconcilable differences, but asked him to stipulate that Claire should move out of our house immediately after the delivery. The lawyer said that as the guardian of the children, I would be within my right to ask for it. When the children turn 18, the house will be sold, and we will split the sale price. I left the lawyer's office feeling satisfied that life would continue for me and the children, and that Claire would receive the punishment she deserved for her infidelity. I didn't immediately do anything about our finances, insurance, or will. I felt that there would be time after she was served. With her inheritance, I didn't think she'd have to worry about her share of our savings. It was almost time for the children to go to school, and I went home to be with them when the bus stopped. When she returned on Friday afternoon, I offered to do her laundry, but she thanked me and said she would do it later. I just chuckled to myself, thinking what a scoundrel I was to tease her like that. I knew why she wanted to do her own laundry. The smell of making love on him could have given her away, and she had to hide her extramarital affairs at all costs. That night we made love again, although my heart wasn't in it. When we finished, she seemed to sense some restraint on my part. "Is your stomach still bothering you, honey? Maybe you should see a doctor. This has been going on for too long." I thought I was being a little kind when I answered. "I'm going to try a new medicine that a friend told me about, and it should solve my stomach problems." "Well, I hope so. I want you to get back to work as soon as possible," she told me, snuggling up to me to fall asleep. God, I'm going to miss her. On Monday, when the kids left for school and Claire left for work, I got a call from the private investigator's office and was told that they had a report ready for me. I said I'd be right there, and in half an hour I was sitting with the office manager. He told me that the report was faxed that morning from Denton, and some photos were also sent. He said he didn't have time to read it in full, but what he realized after running through it and looking at the photos seemed terrible to him. I took a copy of the report from him and started reading. Subject: Claire Barton. I recorded the surveillance of this woman at 1717 on Wednesday, June 16th in the lobby of the hotel. The identity was established using a photo obtained from the office in Merrickville and a badge with the name of the company on the subject. The subject had a briefcase with him and entered the elevator. My assistant went up in the elevator with her and confirmed that she entered her room, 414, at 5:23 a.m. The subject was alone. A photograph of the subject dressed before entering the room is presented as evidence 1A. I looked at photo 1A and saw that she was wearing her business clothes. It was clearly visible that she was wearing rings. He or she must have taken the picture using a mobile phone. The partner stayed in a room rented across the hall from the facility. At 6:31, my partner notified me that the subject had left the room and was riding in the elevator. At 6:32 a.m., the subject exited the elevator into the lobby. She was dressed as indicated in Appendix 1B. In the photo in Appendix 1B, Claire was in her little black cocktail dress, high heels, with a necklace that I gave her for our 10th anniversary, and looked like a depraved girl. There was enough detail in the photo to make it clear that she didn't have wedding rings on her left hand. The subject entered the dining area and ate a light dinner with a glass of wine. At 7:13 a.m., the subject left the dining area and entered the adjacent room, where she took a seat at the bar and ordered a glass of wine. At 7:17 a.m., a lone man approached the subject and they talked for several minutes. See Exhibit 1C. The photo of evidence 1C shows a tall, handsome man talking to Claire at the bar. After a few minutes of conversation, the subject nodded and followed the man into a booth near the dance floor. The subject spent 1 hour and 43 minutes with a man in a booth. She danced with a man 6 times and had an intimate relationship. See Exhibit 1D. In the photo provided as evidence 1D, Claire and the man from evidence 1C were sitting in a booth in a close embrace and kissing. Her short dress was pulled up to her hips, and his hand was under it. At 8:51 a.m., the subject and the man left the recreation room, took the elevator to the subject's floor and entered her room, 414. See Exhibit 1E. Exhibit 1E shows Claire and a man from the break room entering her room. She looked a little tipsy, but very happy. At 11:13 a.m., the man left the subject's room and left the building. The man's car number is MBS 2895, registered to Alexander B. Tate, 1424 Azalea Drive, Denton. The man is married and has 2 young children. I looked through the rest of the story and the report indicated that she repeated her actions the next evening with another man. It was signed by an investigator in Denton. My wife was a woman of easy virtue when she left home. I couldn't come to terms with what she was doing. Even the loss of the rings didn't scare her enough to stop. After paying the private investigator the rest of the bill, I thanked him and left. I took 2 additional copies of the report with me, all on CD, and drove straight home. At home, I immediately called the divorce lawyer and asked him at what stage is the divorce case. He told me that they were ready to file the documents, and I asked him to continue the filing process and asked if he could publicly hand them over at her work the next day. He said it wouldn't be a problem, and I gave him her work address. I wanted to hurt and humiliate her, and the fact that she applied for a job could pretty much get back at me for what she was doing. We didn't have intimacy that night. I think she knew something was wrong, and maybe she understood that I knew something, but she was afraid to voice her concerns, except to say that she hoped I would get better soon. Strangely, she seemed a little reserved herself, but I let it pass without comment. I got up early in the morning because I didn't sleep too well at night. I was working on the computer until I heard the children moving, and then I went and started having breakfast. After breakfast, I walked her to work, and she came up to me to hug and kiss me before leaving for work. I gave her a little hug before escorting her out the door. I think she understood everything at that moment. There were tears in her eyes as I closed the door behind her, and she whispered, "I love you." When she left, I felt overwhelmed with great sadness and wanted to cry myself, but the children needed to be organized so that I could prepare them for the school bus. The call came at about 10:45 a.m. The caller ID indicated that this was Claire's workplace, and I picked up the phone without answering the call. There was a minute's pause while the caller accepted the fact that I wasn't going to talk. "I'm so sorry." Her voice said it in a whisper, and then the line went dead and I hung up. She didn't come home that night, and I wondered if she was playing her sick little game without worrying about her husband anymore. I knew I was being cruel to her, but I retained some justified rage. The kids were wondering where Mom was, but I took them to the Miss D's for dinner, and by the time we got home, they were very tired and ready to go to bed. The next morning, she called, "Honey, can I come home, get my things, and we can talk?" I felt remorse, but it passed quickly. "Why don't you come between 9 o'clock and noon? Then the kids and I won't be here. As for the conversation, I'll talk to you one-on-one at my lawyer's office as soon as you sign, verify, and return the divorce papers. Then I'll listen to everything you have to say." A sob then. "Okay," and the phone went off again. P.S. She signed the papers, and 6 months later we were divorced for good. She was pregnant but had an abortion before the divorce. When she was making love to her last lover, the elastic band broke, and it was close to her fertile period. So even though I discovered her cheating because she lost her rings, she would most likely have been discovered anyway. I heard she's back on the dating scene too. I think if she gets close to marriage again, I'll warn her future husband about her fidelity. There's no point in her pulling horns on the two of us. We had a meeting, as I told her, at my lawyer's office. She asked me to give up the divorce. The lack of unrestricted access to our children was hard for her, but I told her that I just couldn't trust her anymore. She explained that she went to a psychologist, and he diagnosed her with a form of nymphomania, and they helped her cope with addiction. Now she's in control of her urges. I told her that it wasn't enough for me if she still had cravings, and if she had sought help for her cravings in the beginning, she wouldn't be in the position she is in now. I left her crying in the lawyer's office. I'm dating again, and it seems to me that I've found a woman I like, and I think I could easily fall in love with her. She's my age and divorced. She caught her husband cheating and didn't put up with it. My type of woman. A big plus for her is that the children like her too. I guess it's just a matter of time until I ask a question.